Oh, that's my kind of summertime music. Now, let me just say one thing before we get started with the program here. You know, I'm as patriotic as the next fellow, but I swear, if I ever have to hear God Bless the USA again one more time in my entire life, I'm going to grab railroad spikes and just shove them in my ears and keep pushing until the noise goes away. All right? Can we agree on that? It's a horrible song. Thank you. Jim Walsh here at SuperTalk 1270, supertalk1270.com. Want to talk about, we're sitting in for Marlo today. Marlo's got the day off. Marlo and his lovely wife, Alice, they're out of town doing something. I don't know. But I hope, I hope they're listening and I hope they're having a great time, whatever it is. I hope everybody's having a great time for Memorial Day weekend. You know, there's no shame in having a good time this weekend. A lot of people are out there making you feel like you should feel guilty if everything is not somber and sober and, we got to honor. And of course, we're going to do that. And of course, there are appropriate ceremonies to honor the meaning of the occasion. But it's also okay to go out and have some fun. As I've said before, my own father, who's still alive, he's 93 years old, knock wood. He was in World War II. He was a veteran in the Navy, Pacific Theater, and he was fully aware of the necessary sacrifices, but he didn't brood on it. He didn't just sit there all day just talking about that and nothing else. He got on with his life, and every Memorial Day weekend, we got in the car and we went down to the beach. We had a little trailer, one of those little trailer park things near the ocean, and we had a pretty good time, and I thank him for that. So let us move on and begin the begin here. It is summertime, officially summertime, and the living is truly easy, or at least it should be. Now, some things I want to talk about here today. There's an interesting development in this law. Some people want to make it illegal for you to smoke in your car while driving, especially if you have kids in the car. And I actually have a story here. Apparently, it is a law in Virginia now and a couple other places. It's not a national law. I want to make that clear. But the question is, should this be a law? Should it be a law in North Dakota and elsewhere? Should you be fined for smoking in the car with children present? Now, there are a couple of stories in the news that make this especially relevant here. My number is 663-1270, by the way, if you want to weigh in on this. And just for the record, I'm opposed to this law. I think it's stupid. It's pointless. It just makes no sense. It's another classic case of feel-good legislation. I'm sure the Smoke ND people in North Dakota, you know, the ones who put out all those really stupid, pointless, finger-wagging public service announcements about how terrible it is if you live in a house where people are smoking, or if you live in the same city where people are smoking, you have rights too. You can stop them from smoking. Every time I hear that, I'm not a smoker. I've never touched a cigarette in my life. I don't like them. I don't like being around them. My wife is a smoker. I'm trying to get her to quit. I'm working on it. But let's also be realistic about things here. Forcing people to not smoke and getting all heavy-handed about it anytime they, ultimately it's their business if they're going to do it. It's like a couple of years ago when they put out the stupid thing where you can't smoke in a bar. Well, who the hell doesn't want to smoke in a bar? If you're going to drink, you're going to smoke, right? But they have this stupid thing. They can't let the bars decide for themselves. There are no smoking bars. We've had them here in North Dakota. They do exist. And like I always say, if there's a market for that kind of thing, then somebody will come up with it. Somebody will put up a bar and say, hey, you don't have to smoke here. You don't smoke here in this bar. It's a non-smoking place. And they can work it out for themselves. If it works for them, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. But to get back to the issue at hand here, the question is, do you really think it's a good idea to stop people from smoking in their cars? And let me grab the phone here. We got a phone call, 663-1270. Good morning. Happy Memorial Day, and thank you for calling Super Talk 1270.
Yes. I want to say I don't think that smoking should be going on in the cars.
All right.
If there is children in the cars.
Well, there was a case in Virginia, and we have the story, I'm going to get to it here, where somebody was actually fined $100 for smoking a cigarette with a child in the back seat of the car. So you would be for that here?
The other thing is,
okay,
I feel this way about people smoking. You know, we all have our vices. And
of course we do. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Pardon?
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying you're right. Please continue.
And if you want to smoke, that is fine with me. As long as your smoke doesn't get near me, you can smoke all you want.
But you are kind of drawing the line there with the children in the car.
Yes.
I see.
When there's children, yes. If you're the only one in the car, you're the only one that owns the car, no family or anything, you smoke your way. I don't care what you do in your car.
But the kids you would draw the line with the kids. I mean, that's reasonable. I understand why you would say that. I think there are some logistical problems with it, but I appreciate your sentiment. I appreciate your passion on this.
Okay.
Thank you very much for calling, ma'am. I do appreciate it. And if you'd like to weigh in on this issue, we're talking about banning smoking while driving if you have kids in the car. And I'm going to follow up with a story about this in a couple of minutes here, but I would love to get your comments as well at 663-1270. My name is Jim Walsh, and this is News Talk, Super Talk 1270, KLXX. We'll be right back. All right, now there's a great song about living in America. Living in America. And the problem is you never hear songs like that on Memorial Day weekend or 4th of July weekend. Basically what you hear is God Bless the USA, that god-awful Lee Greenwood thing. You hear it 10,000 times over and over, to the exclusion of a lot of vastly superior songs like that one. Tell me if you don't agree with me. I mean, enough with the Lee Greenwood already. It's not that good a song. Come on. There's plenty of songs that get across the same sentiment and do a much better job. That's what I'm saying. It's not a matter of patriotism so much as it is a matter of appreciating good music. Number here is 663-1270. Jim Walsh here at Super Talk 1270. Okay, I want to get back to the issue at hand here. The question of whether you should be allowed to smoke in your car if children are present. Now, there's a lot of feel-goodness about this. And a lot of people say, well, you should draw the line where kids are concerned. If you want to smoke in your car, if you're by yourself, that's one thing. But if the kids are in the car, you shouldn't expose them to secondhand. My question about this is, isn't this really a case of feel-good legislation? I mean, do you really want to divert the resources of the state police or whoever, who are now going to have, on top of everything else they got to do, they got to drive around and start pulling people over for smoking in their cars with the kids in it? Yes, I would agree fully. It's a bad idea to smoke cigarettes in the presence of your kids. But is it really something we want to legislate? Now, there's a lot of misinformation about this story going around. Let me give you the number again, asking if you think this should be against the law, if people should be fined or whatever, like they are now in places like Virginia, for smoking in their cars when there's kids in the car. And the number here is 663-1270, 663-1270. It occurred to me the other day when I was hearing this awful story about the family in Nashville where the dad went to work and the baby was in the back of the vehicle, back of the truck. And the father apparently had no damn idea that his 1-year-old child was in the truck. The child died. We're not making a joke about this. Please don't think I'm trying to be snarky about this. It was a very sad thing, and the first thing I thought was, how the hell do you forget that your own child is in the car with you? That's the first thing I thought. I think that's the first thing a lot of people thought. But the second thing that occurred to me With all this talk about fining people for smoking in the car, if you're going to let somebody off the hook for allowing their child to die in your automobile due to exposure to heat or whatever, does it really make any sense to start fining people and punishing them for doing something far less serious? That's the kind of country we live in. I mean, we do strange things in this country. This is a country that bans smoking while subsidizing tobacco. We do a lot of weird, goofy stuff in this country. And this, to me, is just an example of how inconsistent the whole thing is. My take is simply this. However well-intended it may be, I don't think it's a good idea for the government on any level, federal or state, to step in and start issuing citations for people smoking cigarettes in the cars with their kids in the car. Logistically, it's not going to work. It's like a lot of laws where you can say, well, morally it's a good idea, but it isn't always necessarily a good idea to have that law in place. There's a lot of what we call I think back to the whole Megan's Law thing a few years ago, talking about notifying people about, and I don't want to get off on that tangent here necessarily. My point is there's a lot of feel-good legislation out there that people pass because they say, well, morally, it's a good idea. Well, it may be a good idea morally, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea to have it as a law. I do believe very strongly in telling people and, trying to convince them, hey, this is not a good idea. You shouldn't smoke around your kids. You shouldn't smoke with your kids in the car. It's probably not a good idea to do it. There is some evidence that secondhand smoke can be damaging to you, that the evidence does exist. But do we really need to legislate this? Do we really need to legislate everything that's wrong with the world? Specifically, the issue at hand here is the talk, and the conversation goes on here in North Dakota as well. You've got these smoke ND people. And I'm sure they're all in favor of the idea of citing people and issuing fines for people who smoke in the car while driving with kids, with children in the car. Is it a good idea to do that? No. Should it be against the law to do that? Should we punish people? Should we divert the police resources even more than we already have for other things? No. Answer is no to both. And you may think that inconsistent. I don't think it's inconsistent at all. When you get into legislating morality, things get really messed up in a hurry. Everybody agrees it's not a good idea to drink to excess. Well, we tried prohibition. That didn't really work so well, did it? No. Specifically, if you're in the car, if you're driving, you got a kid in the back seat of the car, and you're smoking a cigarette, let's assume the window's rolled down, you're blowing the smoke out the window, or you're trying to anyway. It's still probably not a good idea to do that, but do we want to start punishing people for doing so? I don't believe we should. Number 663-1270. Your comments are welcome. Now, there was a rumor going around a few months ago, I should say. We'll call it one of those urban legend kind of things. I got that right here. See, I do my homework. There was a rumor going around a few months ago that they were going to do this on a federal level, or that they even done it on a federal level. Ban on smoking cars when children present, taking effect January 2018. Not true. It is not the law of the land on a federal level. There are states that have enacted their own versions of these laws. Specifically, Alabama. They were the ones that I think started it all. Interesting that Alabama would pass this kind of law. And Virginia. There was a story out of Virginia here of a guy who was actually pulled over and fined $100 because he was smoking with a kid in the car, his child in the car. And there's also some marijuana stories like that. That's a whole separate thing. I'm gonna not touch on that. It's a whole different kettle of fish, so to speak. But for the record, just so you know, there is not a nationwide ban on smoking in cars when children are present, despite what you may have heard. People saying it went into effect in January. There is no such law in effect for, on a national level at least. A couple of states have it. Alabama has it, I believe. And I know for a fact that Virginia has it. And there are people who think North Dakota should have it. I am not among them. So the number, 663-1270. Again, going back to the story here. I'm jumping around a little bit, I know. But you talk about children dying in hot cars, and it came out over the weekend that the state of Tennessee was not going to file charges against this family for letting their 1-year-old die in the back of the truck. And while it continues to amaze me to no end that somebody would actually allow this to happen to their own child, there is an argument to be made here that, well, the death of the child is probably punishment enough. But the point I'm making is this. If you're not going to charge somebody for something like that, why would you charge them for smoking with the kid in the car? A little consistency would be nice on these things. That's all I'm saying. Your comments welcome. Should we be fining people and issuing citations for smoking while driving with kids in the car? I don't think so. I don't agree with that. Number here is 663-1270. Something else I want to talk about a little bit. We may go back and touch upon the thing with Will Gardner. We got a lot of response on that yesterday when I talked about it. Friday, I had an hour available, and we talked a little bit about the Will Gardner thing. And a lot of people are trying to defend Will Gardner. They're saying that he's trying to get his life together. I've got some thoughts on that. I want to kind of follow up on that. We touched on it the other day, but I've got some more thoughts. Also, the best and worst foods of summer. This is the beginning of the summer season, and it's always a fun thing because at some point I like to get away from the hard news and the politics and the Trump and all this, that, and the other. Talk about the best and the worst foods for summertime. There's always somebody's always coming out with a list about certain foods for summertime, like your county fair type foods or state fair, North Dakota State Fair coming up in a few weeks. And they're going to have their usual selection of really offbeat things, corn dogs and butter dipped in fat and all those other wonderful things that are like heart attack on a plate. And, of course, some people wag their fingers about it. But, it's fun to talk about. And, moderation isn't really a bad thing. We'll get to that in just a bit here. 663-1270. My name is Jim Walsh. Hopefully you know who you are at this point. And we will continue SuperTalk 1270 and SuperTalk1270.com in just a bit. Now that to me is what America is really about. It's about standing up for the underdog, standing up for the little guy, for the guy who's having his rights violated, who needs to have his rights defended. There was a great line in the movie with Tom Cruise and Nicholson, A Few Good Men, right near the end of the movie, where somebody says, we're Marines, and our job is to be there and stand up and fight for the guys who can't fight for themselves. Now that, to me, is what America should mean. That's what it does mean to me. That's what I love about it. All right, Jim Walsh, SuperTalk 1270, SuperTalk1270.com. I'm going to talk about some of your favorite summer junk food in just a minute here. A few words about the situation with the campaign for Secretary of State. What exactly does the Secretary of State do in North Dakota? It's obviously nothing at all like what the cabinet guy does nationally. But what I want to talk about, first of all, I got to give credit where it's due. Jack Zaleski, if you're out there, Jack, great job with that column in the Fargo Forum the other day, asking how was it that the Republican Party in North Dakota did not actually get around to vetting this guy and asking, gee, Will, we like you and we think you'd be a good candidate, but is there anything in your past that might be a potential problem? Where was the Republican? Seriously, nobody got around to asking. And that's one of the problems I have with this. You know, when it came out the other day about this, and the question I guess here is that should we be giving guys like Gardner a pass? You know, I commented on this the other day, and I got one really nasty. Let me see if I can find it here amidst all my piles and piles of paper here. You know, I got all these notes in front of me here, and they get out of control after a while. But somebody was saying, his wife was one of them, but there was somebody else who wrote me directly and was saying that we should be giving this guy a chance to get on with his life, Will Gardner. My response to that was basically this. If he had come clean with this from the get-go, I would be much more inclined to let it slide and say, okay, let the people decide what they will. If he had actually come out when he was nominated and said, ladies and gentlemen, before I accept this nomination, there is something you should know about my past, something that happened. You see, I think of what the 12-steppers do, and I'm not a 12-stepper, but I am a little bit familiar with the way they do things. And one of the big things they talk about is if you have wronged somebody in the past or if you've done something wrong, you have to make amends for it. At the very least, you need to come clean and let people know that you did this, you're sorry you did it, and you're going to work to improve yourself and make yourself. Well, the problem is they came out with all this stuff after he was caught red-handed. I especially loved it when they played the Jesus card. Well, you know, he goes to Sunday Mass. I don't care if he goes to Sunday Mass 10 times a day and takes communion 20 times a day. The bottom line is this. It was only after the news story came out that he even acknowledged it. That indicates to me that he has not moved on. That's my opinion. And yeah, Jack Zaleski is absolutely right. Where the hell was the Republican Party on this? The Republican Party has just gotten so drunk with power in this state. I really think it just never occurred to them that they would have to do it. We'll put an R next to the guy's name, and that magic letter will guarantee that he gets elected. My guess is it probably didn't even occur there was a problem, but more to the point, it didn't occur to them that there could be a problem. Put that magic R next to his name. Well, elect him. We don't care if he whips old ladies in the street with a pistol in broad daylight. Because he's a Republican, and North Dakota's a Republican state, you know. 60% of North Dakota went for Trump. Don't get me started on that, please. Do not get me started on that. Let's definitely not go in that direction today about Trump. You see, this is another reason why I'm the most hated man in talk radio. It says I don't follow the party line. I don't sit here and go, yeah, Trump is wonderful. Because he's not. He is. Now, how did that old Jewish friend of mine put it? Oh, he's a schmuck. All right? Go look that one up for yourself. You probably didn't know what that word means. But look it up. It's a good word for the situation. But yeah, how is it the North Dakota Republican Party did not ask a candidate for Secretary of State the essential question, is there anything in your history that could embarrass the party and scuttle your candidacy? See, that's another thing. If I was a regular member of the party, I'd be seriously ticked off at this guy, at this Gardner guy, for not coming clean on this. What I would have said, look, Will, if you got a problem, acknowledge it. Bring it out now. You still got a pretty good shot at this. But bring it out of the woodwork now so we can deal with it in the light of day. And then he would have said, well, this happened, that happened. And they would have said, wow, that's... But you know what? People have come back from worse. It happens all the time in this country. We had a president a few years ago who was he was an alcoholic. You know, because they say you're always an alcoholic. Even when you're sober, you're still technically an alcoholic. And he got over it. He acknowledged it. He was open about it, and he moved on, and people were fine with it. Of all the problems people had with George W. Bush, I think the fact that he had a past involving drinking and drugging, that was probably the least of his problems. So people can come back from anything in this country. Yeah, I'm willing to give the guy a second chance if he comes clean up front and is open about it, which he wasn't. And no, Mrs. Gardner, I'm sorry, I don't care how often he goes to church. Patriotism may be the last refuge of the scandal, but it's also the first refuge. No, religion is the first refuge of the what is it? The last refuge of the scoundrel, not the scandal, the scoundrel. See what happens when I get up early to do this show and I get my tangle tangled up and I can't see what I'm saying. No, it was patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel, but apparently religion is the first. That's what I was trying to say. Hardly worth the effort, but hey. Want to talk about the best and the worst foods of summertime. This is one of my favorite topics because I love summertime, and even more than summertime, I love eating. And there's a couple of stories here to come out to tie in with this. The World Cancer Research Fund, who I've never heard of, another one of these groups that basically their whole purpose of being is to tell the rest of us how to live. It says here, if you want to reduce your risk of cancer by 40%, stop eating bacon and all the processed meat and stop drinking alcohol. Well, here's the thing, guys. Would you ever follow this? Yeah, somebody tells you less chance of getting cancer if you stop eating bacon. No more bacon, none at all. No more alcohol, none at all. Reduce your chance of getting cancer. You see, my answer to that is this. I'm 62 years old. The way I figure it, and again, I knock wood as I say this because you never know. I could keel over tomorrow. It has happened to people. It has happened to people far healthier than I am. Too much caffeine, I think, is the problem here. But the point is, I'm 62 years old, and knock wood, I figure I've got maybe 20, if I'm lucky, maybe 30 years left on this mortal coil. And let's say I've got maybe another 20 to 25 years of quality life. Because you figure if I get to where my dad's age is now, I'm going to be alive technically, but I'm probably not going to be doing a hell of a lot. So let's just say that from now, my early 60s, I've got another couple of decent decades ahead of me, assuming that things don't go completely kablooey somewhere along the way. That's what I'm hoping for anyway, best case scenario. So you're going to tell me at my age that if I don't stop eating bacon, I'm going to live a little longer? What's up with that, dude? How messed up is that? Now there's a lot of foods on this list here. It's got bad foods and they got good foods, and a lot of the good foods are pretty good. A lot of them are very good. Some of the bad ones are even better. But I want to talk about it and get your thoughts on your favorite summertime foods. Get to that in just a couple of minutes here. So what are your favorite foods for summertime? What's that great comfort food you like to enjoy? Number here is 663-1270. Jim Walsh on SuperTalk 1270. SuperTalk1270.com. More conversation, your calls coming up. So here's a great song about one of the great things about America, but you'll never hear it at a Trump rally because it's all about them immigrants, all about them little brown people trying to get into our country and sit around and do nothing while they're taking away our jobs. Think about how much sense that makes. Yeah, that's exactly what they said, right? But there's obviously. No, yeah, people around here that piece of crap by Lee Greenwood. God bless the U.S. Oh, shut up. Seriously, just shut up about that, Lee Greenwood. Go away. Your song sucks, all right? If you're going to celebrate America, celebrate the good things truly about it, like civil liberties and giving the opportunity for people from other parts of the world to come and achieve success in life without interference from others. Oh, we can't have that now, can we? Oh, God, no. By the way, Jim, you're a talk host. You're supposed to be against that there immigration. You're not supposed to be thinking for yourself. You're supposed to be a good conservative. Yeah. Yeah. Good conservative. Yeah, and you know the name of the horse that came in on. Anyway, back to the fun subject here. Jim Walsh here at SuperTalk 1270. Your favorite foods of summertime. Came across an article from health.com. Right there you're going, uh-oh, one of those articles. And by the way, if you would like to share your absolute favorite summer food, I'd love to hear about it. Number 663-1270. It's one of these deals where they've come up with the best and the worst foods for summer. And they talk about certain foods and they're full of calories. I always say, in excess, anything is bad. I'm sure it is entirely possible to overdose on kelp. You know what I mean? But you do things in moderation, and you're going to be fine. Well, let's start with one of the worst foods, they say, is the ice cream sandwich. What's better than two cookies sandwiching vanilla ice cream, especially when the cookies are chocolate chip? Well, apparently pretty much anything in the world is better for you. They do suggest make your own ice cream sandwiches using lower fat sorbet. Well, that's not bad. I better skip the cookie and try one of our picks for the healthiest ice creams. Yeah, I can't wait to see their list of healthy ice creams. It's probably the stuff that tastes like toxic sludge. Worst, fried dough. Well, I'm not a fried dough person, but again, if you're eating a big giant plate of it every day, you're probably making a mistake, but moderation, people. Moderation. Oh, no, we can't have that. We can't have that. Zero tolerance. It's a modern word for fascism, by the way. Zero tolerance. Worst, corn dogs. Oh, they will take away my corn dogs when they pry them from my fat, greasy fingers. That's all I can say. 20 grams of fat, loads of sodium. Well, of course. Now, this one's interesting. Worst foods for summer. Lobster rolls. Now, you would think lobster would be healthy, right? You would think, well, if you don't want us to eat hamburgers and hot dogs, we'll eat seafood, lobsters, right? But consider how they're assembled. They're mixed with mayonnaise, then nestled inside a buttered white bread bun for a fat clog sandwich, 400 calories. 400 calories is really not that bad. It's a meal, but a pretty good meal at that. That's not that bad. Really. Lobster rolls with you got to have the mayonnaise in the lobster rolls. If they're going to have any taste at all. What else is worse? Fried clams. And I don't like clams, so I don't care. Ribs. Here we go. Ribs, of course, come in all shapes and sizes. Restaurant ribs need to stay off your summer menu. A quarter pound of beef or pork ribs weigh in at 280. They talk about 300, 400 calories like that's something really horrible. But if you're eating it as part of a decent meal, it's really not so bad. 288 calories for a quarter pound of beef or pork ribs. That's not really that bad. Really. I like ribs. No dry rub, though. They got to be the wet ribs. Okay. Another worst, daiquiris. Well, daiquiris sound light and refreshing, but it's an 8-ounce strawberry daiquiri with more calories than a double patty hamburger and loaded with fat. How do you get fat into a daiquiri? I'm sure they figured out a way, right? I like daiquiris. I like margaritas even better. A little salt around the rim there. What else is worst? Macaroni and potato salad. And worst, onion rings, of course. Okay, now we're getting to some good ones. Now we're going to get to some good ones. Some of these are actually pretty good. Corn on the cob. Oh, but no salt or butter. You can't have any of that. You don't want anything that would make it taste good, because that would be bad for you. Use it for healthy salsa. Well, salsa's good. Yeah, just don't overdo the butter. Well, yeah, don't overdo the butter. I'm okay with that, but don't worry about it. Watermelon. A good way to rehydrate after a long day in the sun. Watermelon is over 90% water, but it's great anyway. Supposedly it has some cancer-fighting qualities. I don't know about that. I'm still waiting to see the definitive, conclusive evidence from, the mainline medical community. Yes, I'm completely in the pocket of big medicine and big pharma. Yes, I am. They're telling me what to say, and I'm part of the conspiracy. Sure I am. Fresh iced tea is good. Has antioxidants, may help you lose weight. Don't go crazy sweetening your tea, and then that's fine. That's good. Fruit salad. I like fruit salad. I like it's a nice mix for a nice breakfast or brunch in the hot summer days. Save some room for them ribs for later on, right? Gazpacho, the cold Italian soup. I'm not big on cold soup, but some people love this stuff. Summer months, you don't necessarily want hot soup. Chilled soup is a good solution. All you need is a bowl to prepare it. Now, gazpacho is filled with things like bell peppers, tomatoes, and cucumbers, making it a light yet flavorful soup. A cup is only 88 calories. Of course, like I say, it would go great with the onion rings and the ribs. Another good one, it says, grilled chicken kebabs. Easy to throw on the barbecue. Chicken kebabs are packed with protein, which is good because, it'll help you with your hunger. But they're low in calories, fat, and carbs. When you add certain veggies, zucchini, bell peppers, and squash, you'll add delicious summery flavors and loads of antioxidants. Okay, fine. Another best, zucchini. Oh, I hate zucchini. Let's move on. If you like zucchini, good for you. I don't. And best, and this surprises me because you would think that they would have a problem with this after all the problems they have with lobster rolls. They say one of the best for the summer is shrimp cocktail. Great for, I'm not big on seafood in general, especially shellfish. It just doesn't agree with me, but it says here, great for a mid-afternoon snack, appetizer at a party, or for a light lunch. Shrimp are high protein, of course, and low calorie. It's a great way to get energized. And they provide about 14% of your daily recommended intake. Serving is less than 100 calories. You can put them on salads, eat them plain, or kind of grill them there. Throw another shrimp on the barbie, so to speak. But yeah, no bacon or no alcohol. They are now saying that no amount of bacon or alcohol is safe. But like I say, I've made it this far. At this stage of the game, I'm not going to sweat it. Even if I don't look particularly good naked, I'm not going to worry about it.
Well, my body could use a little slimming.